Your money is being stolen right now. Not by thieves, by math. In 1971, something happened that erased 98% of the dollar's purchasing power. No announcement, no vote, no warning, one decision. And since that night, the average American family has lost over $400,000 in hidden wealth. But here's what makes this truly terrifying. This exact trick has been used before, 6 times in recorded history. And every single civilization that fell for it, collapsed. Ancient Rome fell for it. Imperial Spain fell for it. The British Empire fell for it. Weimar Germany fell for it. And right now, in 22.5, America is repeating the exact same pattern. There's a reason history's greatest empires don't fade slowly. They don't decline over centuries. They crash violently, suddenly, while everyone inside the system is still pretending everything is fine. And every single time, the crash was preceded by the same invisible trick. A trick so clever that most people never see it, even when it's happening to them, even when it's happening right now. This video is going to show you something you were never supposed to understand. The mechanics of how civilizations steal from their own citizens. How they do it so slowly that nobody revolts. And why the end always comes 20 years before anyone expects it. But to understand what's happening in 22.5, we need to go back 5,000 years to a Mesopotamian king who discovered something dangerous, something that every empire since has copied, a financial weapon that works perfectly, until suddenly it doesn't.
The year was approximately 2400 BCE. Sumerian king Urukagina ruled over the city-state of Lagash in ancient Mesopotamia. This was one of the first complex civilizations on Earth. They had taxes, trade, debt contracts, even bankruptcy laws, and Urukagina had a problem. He needed money. Wars were expensive. Temples needed building. The bureaucracy was growing. But his citizens were already taxed to the limit. If he raised taxes any higher, there would be rebellion. So he did something clever, something that would echo through the next 5 millennia of human history. He didn't raise taxes. He changed the money. Here's how it worked. Silver was the standard currency in Mesopotamia. 1 shekel of silver had a specific weight, about 8.3 grams. Merchants, farmers, soldiers, everyone trusted the shekel because they could weigh it. But Urukagina realized something. If he mixed the silver with copper just a little, he could make more coins from the same amount of silver. The coins looked the same. They felt almost the same. Most people couldn't tell the difference. And suddenly, the king had 20% more money to spend. No new taxes, no rebellion, just more money. It was the perfect crime, invisible, untraceable, victimless, or so it seemed. Within 2 generations, the silver shekel was nearly worthless. Merchants started weighing coins instead of counting them. Trade slowed because nobody trusted the currency. And Lagash, one of the richest city-states in Mesopotamia, was conquered by its neighbors. Urukagina discovered something dangerous. You can steal from your own citizens by diluting their money, and for a while everyone wins. The government gets more spending power. Citizens don't notice the theft. The economy seems to boom, but there's a delay, a gap between the crime and the punishment, and that gap, it's exactly long enough for the people responsible to escape the consequences. This discovery should have died with Sumeria. But it didn't, because 2,000 years later, the greatest empire in human history learned the same trick. And this time, the consequences would reshape the world.
Rome, 64 AD, Emperor Nero faces a crisis. The Great Fire has destroyed 10 of Rome's 14 districts. Half the city is homeless. Nero needs to rebuild. He needs money. Lots of it. Rome's currency was a silver denarius. For 200 years, it had been 95% pure silver. Merchants across the Mediterranean trusted it completely. The denarius was the dollar of the ancient world, and Nero was about to destroy it. In 64 AD, Nero reduced the silver content of the denarius, just a little, from 95% pure silver to 93.5%. Nobody noticed. The coins looked identical. Trade continued normally, and Nero got the money he needed to rebuild Rome. Here's where the psychology gets interesting. Once you discover you can create money from nothing, you can't stop. Nero's successors kept the trick going. Emperor Vespasian reduced it further. Emperor Trajan reduced it again. By 200 AD, the denarius was only 50% silver. By 270 AD, it was 5% silver. The currency that had ruled the world for centuries was now worthless metal coated in silver paint, and the Roman people? They were destroyed. Prices rose 15,000% in a century. A soldier's salary in 200 AD could buy a family a month of food. By 300 AD, the same salary couldn't buy a single meal. Life savings evaporated. The middle class was wiped out. And the empire that had seemed eternal ... began its collapse. But here's what the history books don't tell you. The people who ran Rome, the senators, the generals, the wealthy families, they didn't suffer. They owned land. They owned gold. They owned things that couldn't be debased. When the denarius collapsed, their real wealth remained intact. The poor got poorer, the rich stayed rich. And the empire fell because the citizens no longer had anything worth defending. This pattern should have taught humanity a lesson. It didn't, because 1,200 years after Rome fell, the most powerful empire of the Renaissance discovered the same trick. And the consequences created the modern world. Columbus reaches the Americas. And Spain is about to become the richest empire in history. What I'm about to tell you sounds impossible. Spain discovered more wealth than any civilization in history. Rivers of gold, mountains of silver, more precious metal than Rome produced in 1,000 years. And within 150 years, Spain was bankrupt. How do you bankrupt a country that literally owns gold mines? The answer reveals the most dangerous secret in economics. A secret that explains everything happening today. Between 1500 and 1650, Spain shipped over 181 tons of gold from the Americas and over 16,000 tons of silver. To put that in perspective, that's more silver than existed in all of Europe before Columbus sailed. Spain should have become permanently wealthy. It should have dominated the world forever, but the gold didn't make Spain rich. It made Spain addicted. Here's what happened. When that gold and silver arrived, Spain had more money to spend. So prices rose. Spanish goods became more expensive than foreign goods. Manufacturing collapsed because it was cheaper to import everything. The Spanish economy became completely dependent on a single thing. But here's the problem with addiction. You need more and more to get the same effect. Spain needed to conquer more territories, fight more wars, extract more gold, just to maintain the same standard of living. And then the gold started running out. The easy mines were exhausted. The native populations that worked those mines had died from disease and abuse. New conquests became harder. Spain had to borrow money to fund its empire. In 1557, the Spanish crown declared bankruptcy. Then again in 1575, the richest empire in history ... defaulted on its debt 6 times in less than a century. Spain taught the world something crucial. You can't create real wealth by creating more money, whether that money is the base coins or shiploads of gold, or numbers printed by a central bank. More money just means higher prices. The trick works temporarily, and then it destroys you. But humanity didn't learn. And in the 20th century, 2 experiments proved that the pattern was unbreakable. The first almost destroyed Germany. The second is happening right now. November 1923, Berlin, Germany. A loaf of bread costs 200 billion marks. Workers are paid twice a day because their morning wages are worthless by afternoon. People burn money for heat because it's cheaper than firewood. This wasn't some ancient civilization. This was modern Germany, one of the most advanced economies on Earth, and it happened in 4 years. After World War I, Germany owed massive reparations to France and Britain, 133 billion gold marks. Germany couldn't pay, so the government printed money. In 1914, $1 bought 4.2 German marks. By 1919, it bought 47 marks. By 1921, it bought 262 marks. By 1923, it bought 4.2 trillion marks. The German middle class was annihilated. lifetime savings became worthless. Pensioners who had worked for 40 years couldn't afford a single meal, but the people who owned factories, land, gold, they got richer. They bought up everything for pennies. This destruction of the middle class created something dangerous. Desperate people, angry people, people looking for someone to blame. 10 years later, Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. The Weimar hyperinflation didn't happen in isolation. It was the same pattern. Mesopotamia, Rome, Spain, Germany. Every time the same sequence. Government needs money. Government debases the currency. Prices rise slowly. Then suddenly, the middle class is destroyed. The wealthy preserve their assets. And society fractures. This pattern has repeated for 5,000 years. And right now, in 22.5... it's happening again. In the most powerful economy on Earth, August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon addresses the nation. What he said that night changed everything. I have directed Secretary Connolly to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold. Translation: your money was no longer backed by anything real. From that moment on, the dollar was worth whatever the government said it was worth. Since 1971, the U.S. dollar has lost 87% of its purchasing power. What cost $1 in 1971 costs $7.61 today. That's not normal inflation. That's systematic theft. But here's what's terrifying. Most of that destruction happened recently. Between 1971 and 2008, the Federal Reserve created $800 billion in new money. In 37 years. Between 2008 and 2024, they created $8 trillion. In 16 years. Right now, the U.S. government is borrowing $2 trillion every single year. The national debt is $36 trillion. That's 123% of GDP. And interest payments on that debt are approaching $1 trillion annually. This is the exact same pattern. Mesopotamia, Rome, Spain, Weimar. Government needs money. Government creates money. Prices rise. The middle class is destroyed. The wealthy buy hard assets, and the currency dies. But here's something the history books don't emphasize. Something that changes everything. In every collapse, there were people who saw it coming, and they did something about it. The wealthy Romans didn't lose when the denarius collapsed. They had already converted to gold and land. The wealthy Germans didn't lose in Weimar. They had already moved assets abroad. The wealthy Spaniards didn't lose when the empire bankrupted. They owned the things that money was being spent on. Here's the twist nobody talks about. Currency collapse isn't random. It's designed. Every debasement has winners and losers. The losers are people who trust paper money, savers, salary workers, pensioners, people who play by the rules. The winners? People who own assets. Real estate, businesses, commodities, gold, things that can't be printed. This is the 5,000-year secret. The invisible tax. Inflation isn't a natural disaster. It's a transfer mechanism. It moves wealth from people who save money to people who own assets, from the middle class to the already wealthy, every single time. The government benefits because it pays back debt with cheaper dollars. Banks benefit because they get new money first. Asset owners benefit because their holdings rise in price. And you pay for it all. With purchasing power you never see disappear. But here's the thing about patterns. Once you see them, you can act. The people who survived every currency collapse weren't geniuses. They just understood one simple truth. When governments print money, you need to own things that can't be printed. Mesopotamia, Rome, Spain, Weimar, and now America. The pattern has repeated for 5,000 years. Not because humans are stupid, but because the trick works. It works long enough for the people doing it to get away with it. And by the time everyone realizes what's happening, it's too late for most. The question isn't whether this pattern will repeat. History says it always does. The question is whether you'll see it in time. Whether you'll be the Roman senator who bought gold before the collapse, or the Roman citizen who trusted the currency until it was worthless. The invisible tax has been running for 5,000 years. And right now, in 2025, the greatest experiment in monetary history is reaching its final stages. The debt is unpayable. The printing is accelerating. The pattern is complete. The only thing we don't know is how long the end takes. History says it happens faster than anyone expects. But maybe this time is different. Maybe.